Hey guys, Juan here. As soon as programmers and engineers find out what is the cost, like the licensing cost behind a tool like Tableau or Power BI, their first instinct is to ask, isn't there an open source alternative that does exactly this but for a cheaper price? Or completely free? And the truth is, at this point in time, and I hope somebody comes and changes my mind, but at this point in time, I'm not happy with any of the open source alternatives for traditional dashboarding tools. The problem here is when you're talking about a dashboarding tool, like, Tableau, Power BI, or Looker, we are not necessarily talking about something that can just make a collage out of visualizations and paste them together, like you could do with ggplot or matplotlib or whatever type of graphic library that you can use in a coding. In my experience, where most of the open source dashboarding alternatives lack is in three different aspects. The first one is security. Generally, when you're building a dashboard, there's always some sort of moment in which you want to limit the consumption of a dashboard to certain people. Sometimes you want different people to see something different, like I only see my salary and not the one from my coworkers. But sometimes you just want to make sure that nobody outside of your organization can see the content. For all of these cases that I just mentioned, you need your dashboarding tool to be able to authenticate users. So find out who they are, if they're indeed the right person. And generally, to power something like this, you either need some sort of data source inside of your application, or you need something that communicates with whatever system. Now, if you think that dashboarding is just about the graph, sometimes it's possible that you might overlook the whole security and the whole complexity behind which is what user. And this is something that I see quite often in open source alternatives, that it's just simply impossible to implement something like pro level security. The second thing what I notice open source alternatives are lacking is in the ease of use. The beauty of using one of these traditional dashboarding tools, like Tableau, is that almost anybody can start building with it. Doesn't matter how IT literate, how technical you are. You can just get started, and then you can afford having, to start cheaper professionals. A BI developer generally charges significantly less than engineer or whatever type of programmer you need to build a custom application. But also, not only that, you can make sure that the domain expert, so the people that really know about the topic, be that like the people working in your finance department, marketing, or whatever the dashboard is about, they are the ones that could be building things. So in general, ease of use tends to translate to cheaper and also easier translation between domain expertise, because you're not limited anymore that it has to be somebody that is a JavaScript expert in order to build this. It's just not a thing. And the final item that I noticed missing quite a lot is a data engine. And when I first mentioned data engine, a lot of people might think, whoa, that's vendor locking. That's not something that we want. But the truth is, yeah. The easy approach to a dashboarding tool is saying, hey, every single query is handled by the database. And this works. But you're going to notice that every database has their own quirks. For example, SQLite doesn't even support the calculation of a median. And some databases support regular expressions, some databases support this, some databases support that. If you are letting the database calculate everything, you run the risk of having a product that doesn't have a standardized library of, let's say, functions, calculations. The same happens with performance. Performance per database can change drastically. And finally, doing things like combining two data sources from different databases might be impossible if you're delegating that directly to a database. So the fact that tools like Tableau and Power BI have their own data engine, it just ensures that people are going to have a more, you can say, yeah, everybody has a similar, more standardized use of the product. Everybody can agree on a certain threshold of performance, of features, and that is something that you just built an engine. So, wrapping all of this up, I will be super happy if you present me a great dashboarding alternative that is open source. But in my experience, most of the tools I've seen out there are lacking in either one or all of the three aspects that I just mentioned during this video. Thanks for watching.